The worst thing that could have happened just happened, but now you still got to perform. How do you refocus your attention to stay off of that problem and get back in the flow?
I tell myself just control the controllables. When something goes wrong, it's really usually something that's outside of your control.
Right.
So when that happens, I just tell myself to focus on my routines. Something goes wrong every time.
Yeah.
I can't think of one tournament where everything went perfectly.
Right.
I cannot think of one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you said control the controllables. That's a nice, simple way to put it.
Yeah.
And then routines, right? So in a moment that something goes wrong, that's chaos. And a routine is like stability. So you're bringing stability to chaos. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Movement and Performance Podcast, where it is my goal to help people get active, connect with their body, and perform better. Today, I have with me Sakura Kokumai, the first American woman to compete in Olympic karate. And we'll be talking about the mind of a competitor. This conversation explores how competition can be a powerful tool for self-mastery. Whether you're chasing a goal or simply trying to evolve, Sakura's insights will inspire you to compete with purpose and live with intention. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So it's an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
I love sharing the story of how I met you because it's a humble one, right? But we're at the Shinzo Machida seminar, and I just recognize your elite look, you know, whether it's the way you walk, the way you were dressed, the way, you know, your gi was presented. And I said, you look like an elite level competitor. So pardon my ignorance, but of course, you know, I'm not the best with, like, you know, following sports on a high level all the time, but I love dabbling in it myself on the high level. So I didn't know who you were, and I was like, oh, do you know, do the martial arts, or do you compete? And you were like, yeah, I do a little. That was like my favorite line. Then I went to the side, Googled your name, found out who you were, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. Now I like her even more. I would love to have you on the podcast. So it's cool to have you here today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's exciting. Cool setup too, so I'm excited.
Yeah. So today I wanted to talk mostly about elite level performance. So we might get a range of listeners. You know, a lot of the listeners on my podcast are more general population, but there are elite level competitors that tune into that can benefit from this. But I personally think that everybody can benefit from the elite mindset or some of those lessons. So I wanted to kind of dive into that first. Do you think that it's important for everybody to go deep with something? So meaning, like, I used to say the line, the popular phrase goes, a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I changed it in phys ed to be a jack of all trades and a master of one. So meaning where, like, you have variety, but I still think you should take one thing and go deep with it because there's lessons that you get from that. And what are your thoughts? Do you think everybody should go deep with some type of sport or practice or something?
I think so. Because I only say this because I have that one thing that I have been focusing on my entire life. Right. But leading up to it, I did do a bunch of other sports. Right. You know, it was like a whole buffet where my parents allowed me to do this, this, and this, and this. And karate was something that I ended up sticking with. And through that journey, I learned so much about myself, so much about the martial art, so much about the sport. And being able to focus on one thing has definitely allowed me to, you know, reach that high performance mindset and state because I wanted to be the best at it. You know, I wanted to make sure I perform. I wanted to make sure, you know, I was learning and I was doing something every single day to be 1% better. And that only happened because I was focusing on that one thing and did not have 10 other things I was trying to do. If anything, I had karate, school, and to some like age until like maybe 14, 15, I was sailing a little bit, you know. I played a Japanese instrument, so I had that too. So I did those things, but still, it's not like I was doing, you know, 10 other things, 10%. Right. It was all in or all out kind of mentality. So yeah, like I think that has definitely got me to a certain mindset where I'm, you know, obsessed.
Yeah.
So
I often tell a lot of the kids in the dojo that regardless of performance outcomes, I think that there's value in competition. And I think the big value is I find that I put myself in a scenario where I have to overcome my weaknesses. And the weaknesses are always exposed. And so competition provides an environment that you can never get in the dojo because people are out to get you. And in the real world, people are out to get you. So it's the only scenario where you have people who are really trying to beat you. They don't care about you. They're not being nice. They're trying to wreck you. So when you have that scenario, you end up having a lot more emotions involved. And when a lot more emotions are involved, I notice that I have to learn how to overcome a lot of my weaknesses, whether it's fear, anxiety, this, that. What do I do beforehand? Am I getting nervous? Is that impacting my performance? So I'm thinking more like in that realm. Do you think that competition has value for people to overcome their weaknesses or learn about themselves?
Absolutely. I love competitions. I love tournaments, which is the reason why I do what I do. You know, I'm a competitor.
Right.
You know, as much as martial arts, it has obviously helped me to be where I am. But I love competing. I love pushing myself to the limits and see how far I can go, you know? And that has definitely built my confidence. That has helped me with my goal setting. That has helped me with, you know, staying determined and pushing when things get hard. You know, those things, you know, came with the competitiveness out of it. So I love, you know, I love it. I love the adrenaline. I love the pressure. I thrive off of pressure. So I purely enjoyed it. And I think that's something that I realized at a very young age, and, you know, which is the reason why I am where I am today.
Were there any personal weaknesses that you overcame, or that like maybe were difficult for you that you felt like you needed to work on?
In terms of?
Like, were you ever nervous for competition?
I still get nervous.
You know, like what?
I still get nervous.
Right.
I'll always be nervous. I'll always be anxious.
Right.
You know, I was a very shy, quiet kid, and karate has helped me with confidence, with overcoming fear. And every single day I'm being challenged. And even till now, even after competing at the Olympics, I still get nervous. That's not going to change. And I tell everybody this: your nerves are not going to go away.
Right.
It'll always be there, you know? And if you're not nervous, I don't know.
You're not
that's
challenging
great.
yourself.
You know, that's great. Some people are perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But I still get nervous. So, you know, those things it changes every single time. Every day is a challenge, and it's always different nerves. So that part of it is something that I constantly have to figure out. And, you know, that makes me a better person and athlete every day. So
yeah. What do you do to help overcome that?
I always go back to my training. I always go back to the preparation. And when I do get nervous, I look back and I was like, look, I put this much work in it. I put this much sacrifice. You know, why would I lose? You know, so I try to change that mentality into confidence, you know, and I tell myself that. It's like all self-talk from there.
Yeah.
You know, I got this, you know, I trained, I did the work.
Yeah.
The hard part is done. Now it's going out there and just perform and being myself, and results will always come. And if it doesn't, there's more things to work on.
Do you focus on the results, or do you let it go?
No. For me, once you focus on the results, then I get even more nervous, and I never perform my very best when I focus on the results. So the goal is to be out there and perform and literally just show what I've worked on, and the results will always come. You know, when you win, that's an amazing feeling, you know? And when you lose, that's a crappy feeling too. But then you always go back to, okay, I'll be sad for 24 hours, maybe 3 hours, I don't know, 6 hours, depending on how I am. Right. But I'll give myself a time limit of, you know, letting myself feel my feelings. And then after that, it's like, okay, now it's time to work. And I'm able to get into that mindset because I have, all these competitions that I have to go and compete and perform.
Right.
So that's why I love it.
Yeah, it sounds like two big things I noticed two big themes that I notice in my own performance. But one is like the idea of not focusing on an outcome and just almost the idea of it being a performance. Like when I go out, I say, I'm going out there to put on my best show. And that's what I'm doing,
Yeah.
So like all your training, everything that you do, and then you're just getting out there, putting on your show. You can't focus on, so that second theme is not focusing on things that are out of your control.
It's a hard place to be. And if everybody figured it out, everybody will be Olympic gold medalist.
Maybe. I think there is some gifts.
To
not to take away from. So I think that and when I say a gift, I mean like 0.0000001% of a gift compared to the other. So meaning like you and, one other person, the deciding factor between first and second place, you both probably put in the same amount of effort. Like what made first place? It was probably something out of your control. Like you gave it your all, they gave it their all.
Absolutely.
You both trained the same amount, you both worked super hard, and then there could be, it could be age, it could be they had one extra fast twitch muscle fiber or something. I don't know. What are your thoughts? It sounds like you're thinking differently, or it looks like you feel different.
The difference between the two, or?
Yeah, like what I think 99.9% is like your hard work and what you're putting into it. But I think there is a little small genetic factor.
It's the edge. It depends on the sport, but at the end of the day, it's who has that edge and who has that one factor, That's the part of competition where everybody has put in the work and everybody is good. And it's about tuning in, because everybody is on a high stress environment, right? And everybody knows what they're doing, right? And it's like a ready, set, go. And how the zone is what everybody talks about.
Right.
That space where athletes, I think, express all the time, where, you're just in the zone and it's automatic. Everything is automatic, and you're just moving, right? And how to get there, I competed a lot, but I can probably think of just 3-4 performances that was peak. Everything was perfect performance, because you can't force to be there,
Right.
Like everything has to be in fine tune to get to lock in and to get into the zone. And, I think that's why we're all training and competing to experience that.
Right.
And the difference between all, gold, silver, bronze medalist, it's, everybody's up there. So,
yeah,
it's just a matter of who wins.
Right.
That's the beauty of competition. You just never know.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that there could be a million variables with that, but it could even boil down to something as simple as like, what did you eat for breakfast? Like if you had something bad, or if like now that's on your head. Now
could be, yeah.
And some of those things, there's got to be something that's slightly out of your control. I'm sure as an Olympian, because I'm talking to an Olympian, you probably do your best to control every single factor so that there is no room for error. But I feel like there's got to be this little bit that's left to maybe like, maybe something that you just couldn't have expected. You tripped before the match, now you have a tweaked ankle. Like
nothing
stupid.
is ever perfect.
Right.
Nothing is ever perfect. That's why we prepare for the worst.
Right.
We can do everything to be perfect. Nothing will be perfect.
Right.
It gets delayed, right? Something happens here. The equipment breaks here, which we don't have really equipments, but, there's always something happening. And how you navigate that and how you're still focused on what you're supposed to do, that's where it shows the difference,
Right.
And when it comes to what you're eating, what you're not, that's a standard.
Right.
You know, that's the standard. And, you know, when something goes wrong and yet you still have to perform, you know, so that's the fun part. That's where it shows a difference. You can't control everything.
Right.
And nothing nothing is perfect.
It sounds like resiliency. So how do you stay resilient in that moment when the worst thing that happened the worst thing that could have happened just happened? Whatever it was, I don't know. Like, I can't even think of what it is. You probably had the scenario, but now you still got to perform. How do you refocus your attention to stay off of that problem and get back in the flow?
Focusing on, I tell myself, just control the controllables. So when things like that happen, it's usually something that's out of your control. Usually. Rarely will it be like something that I do that will get there. Maybe when I was younger, I will make that kind of mistake. Now I don't as much, really. So when something goes wrong, it's really usually something that's outside of your control. So when that happens, I just tell myself to focus on my routines, focus on, you know, what I need to do to get out there and perform at my best. And those routines are super important. Those routines will get me back into where I need to be in terms of my headspace. And naturally, I just end up focusing, and everything is just noise. Everything else is just noise. So I think over experience, I got really good at doing that. So there's always something goes wrong every time. I can't think of one tournament where everything went perfectly. I cannot think of one. There's always something going on. Oh my God, the bus is late. We're gonna get there 30 minutes later. You know, we don't have that much time to warm up. You know, how are you gonna? There's always something. I love that you said control the controllables. That's a nice, simple way to put it. And then routines, right? So in a moment that something goes wrong, that's chaos, and a routine is like stability. So you're bringing stability to chaos. So that's another solid piece there as well. What are like maybe some of your routines? Do you have? When it does come to competition, I have like a whole set of routines and things that I do. Usually I love our division category usually goes up first thing in the morning. So it's a 9 a.m. start of the competition. I like to be, everybody who knows me knows that I like to be the first one in the venue. Like I love it when the venue is quiet. I love it when there's nobody there, and that's really because I get anxious. It sounds cool, but it's really me running, like making sure that I don't get anxious.
Gotcha.
But I like to be there early, get in, warm up. I go through my routines of all the warm-ups, and once I'm kind of warm, then you see people kind of trickling in a little bit, and that helps my nerves. Because I'm already warm. So I learned that helps with, you know, controlling my emotions a little bit. I always like to do like a quick, I don't want to say meditation, but I just close my eyes in, you know, catch my breath before I go out. So get there early, warm up, close my eyes and chill.
Do you do that inside?
Yeah, we have a warm up area. So usually,
in the warm up area,
I'll just like pick a corner and then I'll just lay down. And then, you know, when the time's up, that's when things get a little busy, you know.
Real quick, not to cut you off. When you're laying down, what are you thinking about? Are you doing a breathing practice, or you're just letting it go?
I'm pretty good at just zoning out.
So cool.
So I just zone out.
Okay. I just was wondering if there was like a specific practice.
No, I just zone out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going.
And then, you know, they start calling you. So that's when, you know, things get a little noisy and a little busy. Sometimes we don't have a coach that's there all the time. So I have to be aware when they call, right? Okay, like you have to be aware enough to not miss, you know. Usually they won't go out without making sure that you're there.
Right.
But, you know, that's when you line up, you walk out into the arena, and then
nerves high now or what?
No, I'm chill.
That point you're chill. Good, because your routines, I guess.
Yeah, I've done it enough. But that's where in the past I usually get nervous, you know, because you see the setup.
Boom.
But
gladiator walking in the arena.
You make it sound really cool.
It is, though.
I
What do you mean
guess so.
make it sound cool? It's literally the modern day gladiator arena. It's literally, that's what the Olympics is.
But yeah, that's the routine.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes that gets cut short.
Right.
Sometimes you have to warm up, and maybe sometimes you have 40 minutes instead of an hour. You know, maybe because we're the first one, it doesn't get delayed. But if it gets delayed, you have to make sure you don't cool down as much. You got to feel properly in between. So.
And you that's something, a specific karate question at tournaments. I always found the warm up challenging, meaning like if I warm up too soon, then I cool down, then I warm up, then I cool down, and how many times do I go through that phase? Or how do you balance that? So you do your warm up in the morning, but then at some point you're starting to cool down again. Do you do little things to keep yourself warm the whole time, or do you let it go cold, warm type of thing?
Usually once it starts, we'll go at a certain pace now, and we'll get through the elimination first. So you'll have like 3 rounds, 4 max, usually 3. And that in between, there will be like 15-20 minutes. Nothing more right now because it's more organized and more scheduled. After you pass the elimination, and if you do well, you're competing again. You're finished maybe around 11 a.m. and you're competing again maybe at 6 p.m. So at that point, yes, you're already cooled down. You're making sure you're eating, right? But when it comes to warm up and then competing within those first elimination chunk, I just figured out what works for me. So once I warm up in the beginning, I'm good. I just am gonna make sure, I'll constantly be moving a little bit just so that I don't cool down. But it's always like constant movement.
So walk me through. There's boom, they call you up. It's the moment before you walk right on the mat. Or the moment from wherever you're sitting to the moment they call you to the moment you're on deck or whatever it is you're waiting next, or that moment before you step right onto the mat. Where's your mind? Do you let it all go? What do you do? Are you thinking? Are you not thinking?
Not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I just zone out.
Yeah.
That's where you throw everything away and you're just in the zone. So there's not crazy adrenaline, like, oh my God, No,
Right.
like, I mean, if you're in that state, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when it's your time to go up, I'm usually very calm. Especially this is when when I'm feeling good.
Right.
Right. I'm usually calm. I just, walk in and I perform.
Yeah.
I do my kata. And there's not too much that goes on leading up to it. Of course, there's nerves that happens before. So that's where, I have, a few tricks here and there where I have to make sure that I adjust and do what I need to do before I walk out. Everything has to be done before. But once you see your name on the screen, that's the cue to go up. Once that hits, then you're gone. Yeah, you're already in it.
Yeah, it's like a perfect balance of complete relaxation, but then also being intense enough to do your move with full intensity. It's almost like this balance of like you're completely relaxed, but the max intensity, but only at the right moment, right? Like where you
That's the training. That's the training.
Yeah.
That's the training. Again, when you're out there doing your kata, when you're performing, everything is autopilot. You're out there performing, right? So it's, that's the training chunk. That's, behind the scenes before you get to the tournament. That's where you have to make sure that, certain parts you're not confident in. You have to make sure you put in reps and reps and reps to get to a point where you don't have to think about it and you're moving, right? So I think we've done it so much I've done it so much that, once you're in the ring, you just
go.
Yeah, you just perform.
And do you think, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. You're good.
Do you think reps build confidence, or meaning also just exposure, right? So maybe the first time you went in front of that audience versus going in front of the audience now, I would feel that because you have more experience in that arena, that now it's easier versus maybe the first couple times might have been harder. So
I would say the opposite.
Really?
I think when I was younger,
high stakes, maybe?
When I was younger, you had no fear.
Right.
So when you're young, you don't have any fear. You have nothing to lose.
Right.
So I experienced something where when I was younger, I would just go out there and not give, I don't care. And I'll just compete. And the older you get, the more experience you have. So you have more things to think about and you have more at stake and you put in more sacrifices and that's when, things are a little bit different. So,
interesting.
I think just because because I still get nervous competing at a local tournament. That's why I say, nerves never goes away.
Yeah.
And even in tournaments where, everybody thinks, oh, okay, you're going to win, no problem. I'm like, no, I'm nervous as hell.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
But it's interesting because you're nervous, but the moment you walk onto that mat, all that seems like it's gone. Because you just said you're kind of in that flow state. So you do get nervous, but you get nervous before, probably not the moment you're walking out.
No, if you're nervous when you're in it, then you're done.
Right.
But that's the level, that's the high performance chunk, right? Where that's where athletes are really good at switching that on and off. That's why the greats are the greats.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure many will agree to that, where the athletes do still get nervous. We just love it. We just thrive off of pressure. Yeah. We just thrive on it.
Like the adrenaline probably that comes with it. Yeah. I always got nervous. A little different from you. I actually would get nervous even as a kid. Maybe for whatever reason, I thought that, people were watching in the audience, or maybe there was a girl I liked that came to the tournament or something. Like, I don't know, like whatever it was, I was always thinking more so about like who's watching. And I was like I was actually nervous even as a kid.
Okay. I loved it. Yeah. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, everybody's watching me.
Right.
Yeah. And then let me perform.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, it was like no fear.
Yeah.
No fear. Just go out. And I realized the older I got, the more things you think and, more negative thoughts and more things at stake.
And I might be thinking more towards when I say kid, I mean more my teenage years. Probably when I was like a kid, 12 and under. Yeah, I probably wasn't nervous. But I think when I became a teenager, like, and you're starting to go to high school and like, that's where I think I started feeling the nerves more.
Makes sense.
So, yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
All right, so diving a little bit into the training side of things. What does some of the training look like? So when I think about karate, or especially kata performances, I think speed, power, precision are like three major things.
Yep.
What are you, what does training look like for you to be as fast as you are and as crisp as you are?
A lot of training.
Yeah.
I break it into two parts.
Go ahead.
So basically there's physical training, so the strength and conditioning chunk of it.
Yeah.
And there's a karate side of it.
Right.
In the past, before, when I say past, before the Olympics, it was mainly just like karate training. You get the basics. And to those who don't know, karate, if you do the basics right, you get good training just by doing karate movements. So I never did like weight training when I was like in my teens. I was still competing, but weight training I didn't do too much of it. If anything, it was more back and forth in the dojo, holding a certain stance, right? But during when I was training for the Olympics and really started taking it more seriously, I started implementing more strength and conditioning side to it, and separately karate chunk of it. And it's the making sure that everything is well balanced.
Did it help, you think, the strength and conditioning?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially with what was required in competition. The sports has changed so much through the games that you needed to be in your top shape, because we were traveling every 2 weeks. For 2-3 years nonstop. You need to be in good shape to perform and to win.
Yeah.
So training, I can now say this because now I am a full-time athlete.
Right.
But when I was in middle school, high school, college, doing my undergrad and my master's degree, sometimes I don't have time to train.
Right.
So I didn't have the ideal situation where I was training 5 days, 6 days a week.
Right.
Sometimes I have 2 days a week.
Right.
Sometimes I have 1 day a week. But I always make sure that I get something in.
Mm.
Yeah.
What does so when you're doing your strength and conditioning, are you doing like basic strength training, like squat, deadlift, push, pull?
Yeah.
Are you doing plyometrics? Are you doing agility work? Are you...
Lots of agility, lots of plyo training. I just stick to what my coach tells me and gives me. Am I really good at sticking with it? Sometimes no, so sorry.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of body weight, but we use weights too just to get that, fast twitch muscles. I can't really speak too much. I just do what they tell me to do.
Yeah, no, that's
but karate chunk, I know what I'm doing.
So one more question on that though before we jump away, and this one you should be able to probably answer, is just compared to karate, how many days of week, or is it 50-50? Are you doing more karate and less strength and conditioning?
More karate for sure.
Which makes sense.
Ratio-wise,
but
yes.
About, if you could give a ratio about, do they have you doing like 2 days a week of lifting?
3 days a week on
of lifting? Or like strength and conditioning?
Yes, 3 days a week on like the not long days, but that's like the max that I've done.
And on those days you also do karate?
Yes.
And you do karate pretty much every day?
I try to, because if I don't do, especially kata, I don't know if it's the same with kumite,
right,
but if I don't practice kata, it's 3 days. If I don't practice kata like for more than 3 days, then my body feels off. So I always try to make sure that I do some kind of movement, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, but other kata athletes have agreed with this, so I think it's just like a general thing.
3 days go by and you don't do it, it's no good.
Yeah, it's like you forget how you wear your gi, Why does it feel weird?
So spoiled. Someone's probably listening like, I train 2 days a week,
No, but I always make sure that there's definitely more karate and kata training then.
Which would make sense.
Which you have to.
Yeah.
You're doing kata, you're doing karate.
Yeah, sometimes I know like my opinion and what I think to be true, but I like to ask the question just to see sometimes, other perspectives, or if that is consistent in other areas, know. Right. And I would have definitely said, dedicating more time to kata makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you do the kata side of things, do you, for example, like just thinking about speed and even technique, but do you ever like break it into isolation, like pieces of the kata, and just do that one piece, boom, for sets and reps? And what does that look like? Yeah,
for sure. For karate training, within that I try to separate into 2 parts. So one, I focus on technique, and one side is just pure performance. So the technique chunk, that's where you break it into small parts, even if it's just one move or 2 or 3 where it's continuous. That's where I put more reps. I just go back and forth, right? Try to put my maximum speed and power into it, but also get that technique right, So that's the technique training is what takes long hours.
Right.
That's why when I say, I was in a dojo for 3 to 4 hours, I'm like, what can you do in 3 to 4 hours? I couldn't probably finish the first half of my kata,
right? Because
it just takes so much time to work on that small details of the movement. So that's the technique side. The performance side is connecting everything, right? So not just the one part, but maybe I'll break it into 3 parts of the kata. So you have a set of movements, right? Or sometimes performance will be doing the whole kata, because that's obviously important. So that's more the cardio, sounds like a different word, but that's where you work on the kata cardio, maybe. Endurance, right. Of being able to perform throughout the kata, maximizing every single movement. So that's that side. So when I practice karate, I separate into 2 parts, and depending on where I am in the calendar with the tournament, I do more of one thing, less of the other. If I have more time, I will work more on the technique. If I don't have time, how can I do the performance chunk while I plug in the technique training?
Right.
So,
do you ever use a metronome? Like what I've thought about doing. So there's a metronome that goes like boom, 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 boom. So now you stay on beat. So meaning, I don't know, I think I saw it somewhere. I don't think it's my unique idea, but so now, for example, let's say it's doing a beat every second. So now I am in that move so I know how long I pause. So for example, it's like boom, da, da, boom, da, da, boom, da, da.
Yeah.
So and then eventually you do it without the metronome, but it almost like when I'm training with kids at the dojo, I'll tell them they usually don't pause long enough. Like you get nervous, you're rushing.
Yeah.
So like the rhythm of the kata, it's understanding the rhythm. This point, you're going to be there for a second. So it's just going to be doom, one metronome beat. This point, you'll be there for 2 seconds, doom, doom. Or maybe you're pausing and you're holding it for doom, 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 for 4 of them.
I just say seconds.
Okay. Yeah.
When I teach the kids, I just go 1, 2, and go.
Cool.
For the kids.
Yeah.
But when I teach like higher level, I just let them. It's more feeling.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I'm not a number person.
Right.
I compete with my feelings.
Yeah.
So I trust. That's why I love kata, because every tournament it's different in a sense. Yeah, and I trust in, I guess it depends on the flow of it. Yeah. And just how it goes throughout the tournament. Every
athlete is very intuitive. People, part of the podcast too is to remind people of the importance of the wisdom of the body. We always, in today's modern world, we emphasize the brain and reading, writing, math, all these things that we can think about but the body has a whole wisdom, and that whole piece of intuition is your body is communicating that wisdom to you in a faster way. But there's so much that you can't tune into. Like there's a cell on your foot right now that's experiencing something that you don't know. Like how your foot is placed on the ground, how you're this, how you're that. There's a receptor here, there, and all these like thousands and millions of pieces of feedback are now just shoved into intuition, and you just feel it.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that that's a wisdom. And the more you involve, the more you do things with your body, the more you become in tune with that wisdom that's there. Yeah. So that makes sense to me. I don't, I think it's almost like cooking too. My mom never would, follow how many exact scoops. It was just, They
just know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a whole wisdom there, and I think people don't value it enough. But athletes are well aware of it, but I think it's valuable in all aspects of life.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a moment, even as soon as you walk into a room, you'll notice if you feel comfortable or you don't, and if you should leave or if you should stay. So that wisdom that you learned from the martial arts, you're going to apply it to every area of your life. You're going to know things way before anybody else in the room knows it.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
At least I think so. I'll have to do some research studies on it.
For sure.
So you said you train how many hours a day? 3 to 4 hours, sometimes longer?
On a good day where I have like when I don't have anything where I can train well, 5 to 6.
Wow.
Yeah. So on a good day, on a really good day.
And there's no like day of rest?
At least one day. I try to get 1 day rest.
So every day almost like, 6 hours. It could be.
On a good day, yeah. Again.
Right. On a good day.
Yeah, on a really good day when I have time.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're doing that year round? Or are there times where you're maybe off season and doing less, or are you?
I wish. No, our sport, we start in January. We finish sometimes in December, but we go until November.
Wow.
So, that's why it's hard. It's challenging to, I say, I take 1 day off, but I'm not even home for 1 week sometimes. So that 1 day off doesn't really match what I'm saying right now.
Right.
But yeah, it's a whole year thing. Start in January, finish in November, and that's been my life since I was 14. So
it's a way of life.
It's a way of life. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Karate could be a way of life. Competition, we don't have seasons.
Right.
Yeah, so we don't have seasons. So we just have to make sure we're constantly in shape, make sure we don't get hurt.
How do you do it when you travel?
How do we train?
No, yeah, how do you balance that? Are you now doing it in the hotel room? Do you move the bed?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's normal. We've gotten very creative with how we train. So
parking lots. Do you take all opportunities?
Sometimes you'll hear thud 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 in the hallway of the hotel because we don't have a space. Right. So we learn to be creative, making sure, and I think each individual athlete has their own routine. I have mine where I get into the country, I'll make sure I move a little bit, I sweat a little bit, and then the second day I did this, third day I did that. In terms of schedule and off-season, in-season thing, we necessarily really don't have that in karate. So I think we're kind of programmed to always kind of be training and making sure that we're always in a good space.
Cool.
Yeah.
So diving or shifting gears a little bit into specific karate dynamics on an elite level. Mm-hmm. So karate was in one Olympics.
Yes.
Not in the next ones. What are some of the challenges that karate faces as a sport? Why do you think that karate is not in the next Olympics? Why isn't it something that we can have more consistently?
That's a very good question. I wish I had the answers, really. But yeah, we were in the Olympics once. To those who don't know, it was in the Tokyo Olympics, right? And it was the first time karate was introduced to the games. I think everybody thought that we were in the Olympics, but we weren't. It was judo, it was taekwondo, but not karate. If I remember it correctly, and if I'm wrong, I'm terribly sorry, but each host city has I guess a push and say and what sport they want to put into the program. And I know Japan worked really hard to get karate into the games, and which they did very successfully. They got kata in there, they got kumite, because there's no karate without two, right? You need kata and kumite. It can't just be it can't just be kumite.
Right.
It can't just be kata. It has to be both, and I was very excited and happy that they put karate into the program, because that's one thing I never imagined would be possible as a kid. When I'm practicing karate, I just practice it because I loved it. I practice it because I knew I needed it, because it gave me confidence. And at a young age, I realized that. And Olympics, I watched it every 4 years.
Right.
I watched Summer Olympics, I watched Winter Olympics, I watched it on TV, I watched Team USA walking in, with their uniform. With their, Ralph Lauren uniform and Nikes, and that's something as a kid you just watch on TV. You flip magazines looking at these athletes.
Right.
So when that opportunity came, I was kind of in a good space. I wasn't still at the top,
right,
but I was already putting everything into it.
Right.
So it gave me the opportunity to give it my all, and it worked out. And now it's not in the Olympics. We got bumped out for Paris Olympics. We're not in the LA Olympics program. And I guess technically not sure about the next one. But for future, in karate, it's not, I don't know what will happen. I love the sport. I think it gives, I could be biased because I practice it, but I love it, and I think it's something that everybody should do. It's something that everybody can do.
Right.
It's something everybody can pick up and learn, and you don't need equipment, you just need a gi, right? And I think everybody should experience karate at least once. And it's very, I'm an athlete, so I don't know what happens when it comes to getting the sport into the games.
Yeah.
But I really do hope that people see the value in what we do. We train as hard as any other athletes out there, karate athletes. We train like how the swimmers are training. If you look at the elite karate athletes that are currently representing the country and traveling and competing, we put in the same amount of effort and sacrifice, I'm sure, as any other athletes too. So why can't we get the same opportunity?
Right. Right.
So from the athlete's perspective, we're a sport.
Right.
We're a sport. We put in everything. We sacrifice a lot of things, and we all have the love for it. And I really do hope that it comes back at some point, because it really changed my life, and it does so many amazing things for a sport to be on that platform.
So last piece I want to shift into is just maybe anything to share on your personal journey. So like, what did it look like for you? How did you get into the martial arts? Why did you do it? What motivated you to go into competition?
Yeah.
What made you go on that journey to become an Olympian in karate?
Right. It was a crazy journey, I guess, now that I think about it. So I started when I was 7.
Yeah.
I started in Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii, and started in the YMCA. My mom put me in a class. I did not want to do karate. My mom was just like, go take that class.
Right.
I ended up really enjoying it. And from there, I transferred from YMCA to a dojo. I loved being around the people in the dojo. And again, I was very shy and quiet. And I was very like awkward kid. So for me to be in the dojo and just learning from somebody, that was just enjoyable for me. I did all those sports, but karate gave something that other sports didn't give me. Whether that was just being surrounded by your teammates. I don't know if it was a dojo culture where, I loved getting, I love the sensei student dynamic where the sensei tells you what to do and I say, hi, and then I just keep working on it,
right.
And then you get the little nod sometimes from sensei. You don't see it because you have to look straight forward. But, I feel like the little, acknowledgement, and inside I'm like, yes. And, I love that. So from there, I was very fortunate to be surrounded by amazing female athletes in that dojo. Everybody I was surrounded by there were female karate athletes that was world level.
That's cool.
Champions.
This is the Japanese dojo.
Both Hawaii and Japan.
Right.
Both.
Yeah, cool.
Hawaii and Japan.
Right.
Both. And I was very fortunate to be surrounded by that because I saw these, can I say badass? Like badass like women.
You could say whatever.
Badass women training hard and, just being freaking badasses in the dojo.
Yeah.
And then once they leave the dojo, they're just like smiley, giggly, this like down to earth people.
I love that about martial arts.
And I love that switch. And as a 7-year-old girl, watching that is so powerful, So anyways, that's why I think I loved karate. And when I first tried out for the team, I didn't even know that it was team trials. I just went to that tournament because it was a tournament everybody was going to. And I won, and everybody was congratulating me. Like,
how old were you?
14. Yeah. I was like, congrats, like you made the team. And I'm like, what team? You can go to Pan Am's.
That's cool.
What is that?
Can you explain that for the audience? Pan Am?
So it's a Pan American Championship. It's a continental tournament. So you have North Central and South America, right? And it's a big event.
Yeah.
And you have to win in the country to represent, to be there. So that exposed me to what it could be internationally. So at the age of 14, I traveled with the team, went to Ecuador, my first international trip without my parents.
Cool.
And I just had fun. I loved being with my teammates. I loved being in a different country. I loved seeing athletes from different countries, but who practices karate. That was my first exposure to that. And to add on to it, I did win gold. So that experience was like, wow, that was fun.
Right.
All my hard work paid off. But wow, like I made friends.
Right.
You know? And that motivated me to train again for another year so I can make the team again the next year, and next year. So from 14 until maybe like early 20s, I just did it because I loved it. I did go to college in Japan, undergrad and master's, and they have a whole collegiate, it's a collegiate sport. I was able to balance academics and karate, which took my karate level to a whole new place.
Right.
But Olympics was not in the picture until maybe I was 22, 23. Olympic was not even a thought. So, when it was announced, obviously it was no brainer. I was like, all right, I got to put everything into it. But I didn't even know what it was. Like, what is the process? There was no blueprint. We had no previous Olympians. Nobody knew what was going on. Right. Which made it really hard and challenging. And it was like a ready, set, go. And you have like everybody just trying to go for this one direction. Right. But nobody knew how to navigate it.
Right.
Yeah. And that was so hard. And it's such a big world and a different...
Paved the road.
It's different, So that was very challenging because we were competing. Like we had over 10 international tournaments in a year. It started in 2018, like just imagine 12 tournaments international. Wow. 2019, 12 tournaments, and then 2020.
It's like a tournament a month.
Yeah,
international.
At least.
Like fly, get used to the place.
I was never home. I was never home.
It's wild.
And you're not just traveling, you have to perform and win. Yeah. So that intensity is something that I have never experienced in my life. And, I made it. And of course, COVID happened. So that changed the whole thing where I qualified in 2020 March. And I was in Austria when I learned that I had enough points to qualify. But that was 2020 March was when things were picking up, right? Right. And, one tournament got canceled in April and I had to go home. And I remember I was sitting in a hotel in Austria and the headline news was Tokyo Olympics might get canceled.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
right.
What? But it's not just me. The whole world was, it was the whole world that was affected by it. So, that journey itself with the Olympics probably has to be another podcast because, that's going to take a long time. But yeah, it's, how I started and how it came out to be and where I am now. Like, I'm just super grateful that I was given the opportunity to even try to go for it. Now that karate is not in the games, a lot of athletes don't have that opportunity. So for me to even be in that right place and to be surrounded by amazing people who allowed me to push through that and navigate it. And, for that, I'm truly grateful because I did have, as hard as it was because of the people that I had around me that got me to where I am. And
you're still competing.
And I'm still competing.
Which is even cooler.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool now that I look back and think about it, but I think it'll be even more amazing once I'm like retired and I'm able to look back at it again. I think I'll see it differently too. Yeah.
An inspiration for people in their 30s. I don't know if you want people knowing your exact age or anything, but they always say like you start to age out, or it's funny how like you start getting old or something.
Kata's shelf life is long. Yeah. I think I was the second youngest in Tokyo.
Okay.
Yeah. Kata's shelf life, we have like 30 athletes for female athletes, like 34, 35. The gold medalist was like,
I think 34 is like the common.
Yeah, it's not like gymnastics for sure.
Right.
But for kumite athletes, you got the young ones coming up. But kata, generally, it's like older. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, prime, wow. I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
All the young ones are looking at you like, that's the one I want to get, And someone's got
They're keeping me on my toes.
At home.
No, they're keeping me on my toes. I'm excited about the next generation, though.
Yeah.
There's some strong ones coming up.
Cool.
Yeah.
We hit a lot of gems. We hit a lot of the points that I wanted to hit. Before we start to close, is there any just opening the floor. You don't have to have anything to share, but just opening the floor in case there was something we missed that like you wanted to share that I didn't.
No, nothing really. If I could say one thing, which is out for, the younger ones or the people who are trying to pursue karate, the ones who think that they can't because, I would say there's always a way. I think it's hard because it takes a lot of, there's some things you can't control, but to those athletes out there, the younger ones especially, who wants to pursue this sport, there's always a way. So I would, highly encourage them to, get that little courage to try. Even if there's school, there's always a way to put 30 minutes in a day. Even if you can't do it consistently, just do it once a week, twice a week. But you can still compete. Don't give up just because, because I think I encountered many athletes that do face those challenges. And here in this country, karate is different, the environment is not there for athletes to be athletes. Because our sport is not considered as a sport, So, for the younger ones, I, just want to say that, just keep going, keep trying. Yeah. There is always a way. So, they're the future of our sport. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think my buddy, he just sent me a post that there was some research to back the fact that like if you want to be in the 95 percenters, or like up in that elite category, there was something to support 18 minutes a day, which sounds like a very low number, but just giving people some inspiration of like that consistency, like you said, even if you just get a little. Yeah. Like there was some research to support 18 minutes a day
18
or something,
minutes.
Which is very
That's not that
interesting.
bad.
Yeah.
18 minutes, you can get like one full round of basics done. 18
right.
minutes? Yeah, because usually it takes 15 minutes around to go through like just basic training.
Right.
But yeah, 18 minutes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so yeah, keep getting after it. How can, the last piece was if people wanted to follow you, you're on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any things to stay connected?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. It's my full name, Sakura Kokumai Karate. And I love Instagram. So, you'll see my journey through there. And, I'm traveling constantly around the world. So if there's, like, say hi. I love talking to people. So, they can follow me through that. I'm not too much on TikTok or anything, really. Okay. But that's Instagram. Instagram's the best way. There's also another platform called Fandid that I'm in. It's basically like a fan club, but they'll get more in-depth like stuff outside of Instagram.
Gotcha. And can they interact with you on, like, comment on it?
Yeah. They can, like, I think now you can like it and comment on it, I believe.
Cool.
But you can get more specialized stuff on there. So that's where you can follow me, Instagram and Fandid right now.
And did you make a new karate bag?
I did. I did.
Which is cool.
Yeah, so I always struggled with, I'm pretty sure everybody can agree. Like, I always struggled with finding a perfect bag for my gi. And I hate, gis are expensive. Gis are so expensive, and mine's like, and a lot of top level athletes, we have like custom gis. Yeah. And they're, to those who don't know, they're white. Right. They're plain white, right? And they're like, nobody touches my gi. Nobody touches my gi. And I always struggled with finding a bag where I could protect my gi from it getting dirty, because I would go to school. I would go to school, Like, I'll put my gi, I'll put my books, I'll put my pen, everything, sometimes food, water, and I hate mixing everything together. So I partnered with a brand, Anello, from Japan, and we made a bag where, I can protect my gi. It looks nice because it doesn't look like a sports bag. I want to be able to carry it around to go to school, if I have a meeting, even if I'm dressed well, but I have to go to training after, I have a bag on me, right? So my bag is out too, so you can find that you can jump into that link through my Instagram. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for today. This was awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I had fun. Yeah. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are good. And cut.